Remembering those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Republican lawmakers talk about the recent legislative session, and Woodland repeats as state baseball champs. Those stories and more on today's edition of the Week in Review from ClarkCountyToday.com. Happy Friday, everyone. It was a short week for a lot of us due to the Memorial Day holiday. Hundreds showed up at Willamette National Cemetery in Portland to honor the fallen. The ceremony included a performance of the Star-Spangled Banner by the Union High School Women's Quartet. Meanwhile, in Washougal, the ceremony not only honored the fallen men and women who served our country, but Phyllis Hutchinson, who passed away last June at the age of 92. Phyllis served on the area's cemetery board for over 40 years and left $20,000 to the program after her passing. Neighbors around the Homeless Navigation Center on Graham Boulevard showed up by the dozens Wednesday night to voice their frustrations to members of the city, the county, the police department, and SHARE, which operates a day center out of the facility.
We're not going to take questions right now. You can ask questions of Dana after we're done with the presentation.
Please ask us questions. Please come and talk to us. We want to talk to you and we want to help.
Thank you.
We're here to be good partners with you.
Neighbors were frustrated to find there wouldn't be a Q&A session, only a short presentation followed by individual questions. Vancouver Mayor Pro Tem Bart Hanson sat at a table surrounded by animated citizens, frustrated with what they see as a sharp uptick in property crimes and bad behavior since the Navigation Center opened last November. ClarkCountyToday.com talked with neighbors earlier this month, and we're in the process of following up with SHARE, the nonprofit that runs the day center there, and Vancouver Police. Assistant Chief Troy Price says a full analysis of crime rates in the area since the day center opened are being done, and they hope to have numbers to present at the next Good Neighbor meeting the final Wednesday in June. Keep an eye out next week for an updated piece, including a tour of the day center operations. Be sure to watch ClarkCountyToday.com or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for follow-up stories about the Navigation Center and the homeless situation in Clark County. Lawmakers within the 18th District in Southwest Washington started their Memorial Day weekend last Saturday, meeting with voters. Facing a huge Democratic majority in the House, Senate, and Governor's Mansion, Senator Ann Rivers and Representatives Larry Hoff and Brandon Vick, all Republicans, said it had been a rough session with major budget increases and new taxes to go along with it. But as Hoff put it,
we killed a bunch of bills that would make you projectile vomit. There were some very, very bad bills for business that we were successful in stopping.
All right, you can see the full Yakult Town Hall meeting at ClarkCountyToday.com or on our YouTube channel, and watch for coverage of a 17th District Town Hall meeting with Senator Linda Wilson and Representatives Paul Harris and Vicki Kraft coming up this Saturday at the WSU Vancouver campus. This week, we sat down with Battleground Mayor Mike D'Alessandro as part of our ongoing interview series with local elected officials. This conversation focused on Battleground's future as the city of 21,000 undergoes its first major revisioning process in well over a decade. D'Alessandro also addressed the City Council's recent decision not to put forward a Second Amendment sanctuary city ordinance following the passage of Initiative 1639 last November.
And again, it was one of those issues where it's a tough issue because, when you're in a position of public service, especially at the local level, you want to help people. That's why you're there. You're there to listen. You're there to help. But the challenge is when you can't help somebody and they're coming to you because maybe they're not being heard by state legislators or they're not being heard in some other manner, but they're coming to you because you're accessible, you're there. And that's a challenge because that's not something that sits well with me either.
Right.
But we, in good faith, speaking from my perspective, I won't speak for the other six on council, but felt that we didn't want to take any sort of steps that showed that we were picking and choosing what laws we're going to enforce in our community. That just sets a bad precedent, regardless of how poorly written the law is. And in all likelihood, portions of it, if not all of it, are going to have some significant challenges through the courts and may not make it through. So,
to see the full interview with Mayor D'Alessandro, visit clarkcountytoday.com. Heads up in East County, Washougal River Road will be closed for construction between E Street and Shepherd Road starting next Monday and going through June 21st. This is to repave the roadway as well as provide utility improvements and ADA curb ramp upgrades. The project is expected to cost around $315,000. It was one the city has had on its list for quite a while, said Rob Charles, Washougal's deputy director and city engineer. Trying to knock it out as we've been given budget by our city council, he said, so we're hopeful to get this one off the list for a good 20 years. If you missed our first day trip video from the Clark County Scenic Route last week, do yourself a favor and go check it out. This week we'll be featuring our second day trip video out at the Oregon and Washington coast.
The sea, once it casts its spell, holds one in its net of wonder forever. Jacques Cousteau, the famous French marine explorer. That wonder lies less than 100 miles from most of our back porches. Welcome to Clark County Today's second installment in our day trip series. Welcome to the coast. From the boardwalks and history of Astoria, Oregon, to the inlets and coves teeming with weathered pines, to the endless stretches of pale sand lining Long Beach, Washington, the Pacific Northwest coastline is an adventure calling. All the locations we found are open to the public, and many don't require any passes, or at most an inexpensive one. The food, the people, and the ocean are waiting. So go fill your lungs with sea-sprayed air and get caught in the wonder. As summer makes its debut, we hope you have some adventures of your own and enjoy the wild beauty of the place you call home. For ClarkCountyToday.com, I'm Jacob Graneman.
All right, thanks, Jacob. Looking forward to the full video there. Now it's time for your week in review sports update with a very busy Paul Valencia.
The end of high school spring sports in Washington is a wild ride. The WIAA crowns team champions in every classification in baseball, softball, and boys soccer on that final Saturday of the season. Plus, there were more than 100 Clark County athletes competing in state track and field meets. Tennis players had state championships too. We had several incredible performances, led by the Woodland softball team. The Beavers won their second consecutive Class 2A state title. The Columbia River boys soccer team just missed out on its second consecutive title. The Chieftains lost by a goal in the championship match. Plus, we had several individual titles. Clark County Today had Saturday covered with my updates on social media, and we had wrap-up stories over the weekend. This week, we revisited the two-time champions meeting the Beavers at Woodland High School for a video interview. I just had to know how the team came up with the name Reggie for the state trophy. And in a mix of spring sports, making a transition into summer, the Southwest Washington Senior All-Star Games were held Wednesday at the RORC, hosted by the Ridgefield Raptors. The event for the best senior high school baseball players was moved to the Ridgefield Outdoor Recreation Complex this year. The Raptors opened their season Tuesday. The Raptors are expecting a big crowd for the opener, which will include a fireworks show after the game. This week, though, the Raptors helped out with the high school All-Star Games and got some training for the big show next week.
For plenty more coverage, always about Clark County, head to ClarkCountyToday.com. If you have a story idea, a tip, or just general feedback, you can always send us an email to news@ClarkCountyToday.com. For all of us, I'm Chris Brown. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.